In the event of facing the reality of losing a loved one, more times than not, you could feel like you would do anything to save them, anything to run back time, to do things differently. But just how far would you be willing to go? And would you lose yourself in the pursuit of change? At first glance, Hungry Lamu looks like another quirky, lighthearted indie game. You're dropped into a bright, colorful world filled with trees, fruits, and a cheerful little llama who's, well, hungry. But in the moment you press start, you're stepping into something far more disturbing than it first lets on. Created by the developer Kalu, Hungry Lamu quickly gained attention in the indie horror scene for its deceptively cute art style, shocking tonal shift, and a hidden story buried underneath layers of surreal terror. And with the release of Hungry Llama 2, the game dives even deeper into the nightmarish world behind the cheerful smiles. Hello guys, just as I stated last video, I would love to put these sections in my videos moving forward before we really get into the game, just because I truly do feel like sharing a bit of information about myself and what the game is about serves both as a content warning. A lot of the games that I usually speak about are very dark, and I also just kind of want to get a little closer to the viewers. And so today's topic, we'll be talking about body dysmorphia. And I think this is something very, very prevalent in today's scope, where body types, body shaming, body content, body anything has been taken to such a degree. So if anyone is viewing this video is struggling with any type of body dysmorphia, or you're unhappy with your body type, I just want to pause the video and say that you truly are beautiful the way you are. And if one person doesn't see the beauty in you, the other will see you as the most beautiful 10 out of 10 angel that has ever come to this earth. And you need to strut around like that, because a big portion of how attractive you come across to other people and to yourself is how you feel inside. When you feel like you're at the very best, at the very pinnacle of your physical prowess, people are going to see that and people are going to gravitate towards you. If you are so busy looking in the mirror and seeing every miscalculation and flaw in your body that it has to show to the world, you're definitely going to feel and be perceived that way. And if it's on a more serious tone and you actually have a chronic illness, a chronic disease, I'm very sorry, and you are felt. But even still, with that, just know that you're extremely beautiful. For me, I went through something similar, I guess. I don't know if I can truly say it's something similar, but this is me grabbing for straws. When I was a young lad, I was a addict. I was. And so when I was watching Korn, something that really was hard for me to put my head around was the fact that these actors and actresses were actors and actresses. They were able to do these intimate actions but keep it professional, and they were paid to be very good at it. I would see their schlongs and they would be 9, 10, 11 inches long. And of course, now growing up and knowing the world that big would hurt in the first place. But in my peewee little brain, I began to be scared of having sex, because I figured that when I do engage in such intimate actions, I would be laughed at because I wasn't 10 inches, I wasn't 9 inches, I wasn't huge. And I know this isn't body dysmorphia, but there would be times where I would kind of cock block myself, where someone would show interest in me and I would either give them the silent treatment or self-sabotage by being super weird or just ghosting them. And looking back at it, there was a lot of people that I feel like were really good individuals, and maybe in a different world, in a different timeline, in a different universe, we would get closer. But I do feel like I burnt a lot of bridges due to my own self-esteem. And so I just wanted to stop the video here and really just talk about that, because body dysmorphia is nothing you should ever look at anybody questionably about. Body dysmorphia is something so unparalleled, so unimaginable that it's almost impossible for you to understand if you are not currently in that predicament. But what you can do is try to walk maybe even a mile in this shoe. Maybe to try to understand how and what it could feel like to look at yourself and be dissatisfied. And let's get into the game. The game will cover body horror and dysmorphia. And so that's just a content warning, but I think it does in the end showcase a very important theme in life. So why don't we get into it, shall we? From just the title screen alone, you can tell that something isn't right. There seems to be this very cartoony and very innocent vibe to it. However, there's something undeniably dystopian about it. On the title screen, we are able to see trees, rocks, and some bushes and a cave in the back. And when clicking on Start Game... Hello, Lamu! Hello? Am I Lamu? You had a good nap, didn't you? I did. Oh dear, looks like somebody's hungry. Let's go find some food for that big stomach of yours, Lamu. Okay. Why does it sound like we're in a cave? That sounds a little strange. Again, something completely feels off. Almost too happy, too childlike. It almost feels disturbing to a certain degree. The narrator introduces Lamu, who happens to be a llama, and states just how hungry Lamu is. We can see from the cave itself that there's already a bunch of fruits that have been eaten, so it makes you wonder, why is Lamu still hungry? Another interesting thing is when going to interact with the bunch of pages that are on the ground, the narrator would say something very interesting. Lamu's favorite book. If only Lamu could still read. Anyways, Lamu is still hungry, and so the narrator tells Lamu to go out and get some cherries. These cherries for some reason are blue, so that's cool. Not sure if that means anything or if I'm just slow. I'm willing to believe I'm just slow. Maybe there's some blue cherries out there. Anyway, eating all the cherries, not the blueberries, Lamu is still not satisfied. He's still hungry. That's when we hear a dog's bark. Oh god, I really hope that this is not going where I think it's going. Lamu hears a dog's bark, and we see a banana with legs, and it's barking. The narrator tells us to talk to the banana, see if the banana would let us eat him, essentially. However, the banana doesn't want to be eaten. It is acting quite selfish and even growls at us. And instead of finding more cherries, we just find a rock and we slam it on the banana's head, and we forcefully eat the banana. Again, even after doing what we just did, we are still hungry. When exploring just a bit further from the banana, we find a group of fruits. The narrator calls them fruit friends. And this is not our first time meeting these fruit friends. Because as we make ourselves known, the fruit friends begin to run, and the narrator capes it into a situation of them just wanting to play. And we, of course, chase them. During this section, you can find the three of them doing different assortments of stuff. One fruit friend is hiding in a tree. The next fruit friend is hiding under a rock. And the very last one is hoping not to be found within a bush. And for each fruit friend, we have a solution. For the one hiding in a tree, we cut it down. For the one hiding under the rocks, why not drive it out with some bee stings? And the last fruit friend, why not set the bush ablaze, cooking him from the inside? Who doesn't love a roasted fruit? And when getting every last fruit friend, Lamu would still remain to be hungry. The game suddenly switches to a first-person horror game. We switch to the perspective of one of the fruit friends. Apparently, there was one left. This one was a man, an unnamed protagonist, who happened to be taking a piss while everything else happened off-screen. In the middle of his pee, he would hear a woman scream, a blood-curdling scream. And he would exclaim that if it was Tasha, he wondered why the hell they were being so loud. So he heads back to the campsite. Of course, when getting back to the campsite, no one is there. Everyone has disappeared, even his dog Moochie. Whistling for Mochi and wondering where the hell she went, our unnamed protagonist would go off into the forest to look for her. And honestly guys, I have no clue if it was because I was playing the game and the browser format, but I could not find the stupid dog's corpse. It was to the point where I was desperately looking for the dog's corpse because I just knew what the game was leading up to, but I just couldn't find it. Dude, there's no fucking trail. Dude, yeah, this is so stupid. We gotta do this, bro. I can't figure it out. I'm trying my hardest here. Alright, let's see what they did. And here I am, almost 23 minutes later. It's because they already fucking played the game. Like, dude, yeah, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. So it's a yellowish tint. Sorry, I had to figure it out. They said, look, right here. This is where they were. Oh, wrong place. And then this is where they went. And okay, so I'm gonna just go straight. I'm not gonna deviate from the path. I'm just gonna go straight, and we're gonna find the damn dog dead. Because Lamu did not eat a fucking banana. How in the fuck face? Where's my dead dog? It's so silly. I followed it like word from word, bar from bar. And somehow, some way, we still I just can't find this shit, man. Mochi? Thank God! Mochi, you're fucking dead! Yes! Mochi? What the fuck? Who did this? Poor girl. Whichever you assholes did this is fucked up. Tasha, Kin, Leon, where the hell are you guys? And when I finally did, I was almost too excited. I was so happy to see that dog dead. It was not a good look for me. I do not condone this type of behavior IRL, but just trust me, it was like fucking 40 minutes of me looking for this dead dog. And once finding your dog dead, this sends a chill up the protagonist's spine, initially thinking that one of his friends did it. And of course, when looking around for your friends, you would instead find their corpse. You would find one friend who had hidden up in a tree with a broken leg, now with his head gone. The next friend burnt to a crisp. You couldn't even tell it was your friend at first. And the last one just filled and littered with bug bites and stings, also having no head. This would be enough to finally get the protagonist to leave, and so he would run back to his car, and when driving, we would get jump scared by Lamu himself. Tragedy in Lamu Forest Park. Tragedy strikes in the infamous Lamu Park. What was supposed to be a peaceful camping trip of 4 friends turned into a devastating bloodbath. Tasha Neal, who was 20, Ken Abel, who was also 20, and Leon Dean, who happened to also be 20, and Redacted were camping in Lamu Park on the night of February 18th. The young adults just graduated and were looking to have a getaway out in the wild to unwind and relax. That was when the tragedy occurred. Tasha, Ken, and Leon were brutally murdered and decapitated in the middle of the night, leaving Redacted to be the lone survivor of this devastating incident. The Lamu Forest Park has been infamous due to its collection of known murders to those who enter the park. Every murder involved within the park has been through decapitation by unknown means, though investigations have concluded that the bite marks present on the bodies resemble that of human teeth. The mystery of the Lamu killer has been solved due to the recent developments, though authorities have decided to withhold the information of details about said killer. They assure the public that it will no longer cause any harm to any citizens. Redacted has refused to participate in any interviews, understandably due to their traumatizing experience. Our deepest condolences to the families of Tasha Neal, Ken Abel, and Leon Dean. The public may rest easy knowing the Lamu killer has been apprehended. As I stated, there are 3 endings in this game that you can get. And for the next one, I think it's called a full course meal. Essentially what you need to do is, while playing as Lamu, with the rock you can smash the car that's located to the far right of the screen. And when doing so, while you're playing as the unnamed protagonist who gets into their car, well, they can't. It's completely smashed, meaning Lamu is free to eat you. However, for the most dialogue heavy, most lore heavy, most disturbing part of this game, if it wasn't already disturbing enough, is actually finding the Happy Cave. No, not the Happy Cave. It's not the Happy Cave, it's the Lamu Cave, but you know, the games look super similar. How can I, you know what I'm saying? After coming back from taking a piss and not seeing your friends, instead of looking around for your dog and your friends, you can instead go to the section of the map where it says "Do not venture," and there lies Lamu's cave. The protagonist believes this is much safer than just being out in the open, not realizing this is exactly what's hunting them down in the first place. But once going inside, instead of seeing fruits, you actually see piles and piles of human skulls. And of course, in the corner of the room, you see a bunch of books and papers on the ground. I cannot read that, bro. It says, "Surprise, today is Lamu's birthday. His mom and dad made him a delicious fruit cake." Oh my, mom, dad, what a nice surprise, Lamu exclaimed. "I didn't know you both could bake." Okay. I don't like where this is going here. I'm not interacting either. Once I interact, that motherfucker's coming in. It says only fruit, only fruit, only fruit, only fruit. Lamu is a herbivore, which means he only eats fruits. Meat of any kind makes him go yuck, I see. If Lamu wants to have a hearty meal, he needs to find fruits, not some dead duck. Yeah, we can do this. A children's book? I already read all this. But this is giving me a much clearer picture here. It says the Lamu is hungry. Lamu. Not the llama. Lamu. So what's interesting, it seems as if we were once a human of some kind. Whether that is a child, I'm not sure. But something happened to our mom and dad. Something happened to us. But since we were so underdeveloped in terms of our brain understanding trauma and stuff, it seems as if we took the mantra of this llama that we used to read all the time. And so instead of llama, we were like, no, not the llama is hungry, Lamu is hungry. I am Lamu. And so apparently the dad is the monster. And this book belongs to it's like something slightly here that I cannot read. It's a new day today. Everyone's waking up. Llama sees the sunshine and wakes up with a big yawn. It's a daily routine for this young animal to wake up, well rested at the break of dawn. Rumble, rumble. Lamu's stomach growls. Looks like Lamu's hungry for some fresh food. Oh dear me, that's the sign to go. Llama said, "Time for some breakfast. I hope it's good." Miss Home. Okay, Llama leaves his home, whistling as he walks, thinking of the adventure to find his meal. Tweet, tweet, toot, 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 tweet. He whistles gleefully. Overwhelming euphoria is what he truly feels. Something got ripped out of the book and it says, "How rude of me," Llama says. "Delicious fruit, truly tasty." Blank himself, satisfied with his feast. Blank to head home, best not to be lazy. They are fruits, they are fruits, they are fruits, they are fruits. Llama walks back home, belly very full. He reaches his home just when the moon rose. He entered the door with a smile on his face. but what he saw next made him struck a pose. And apparently it says no more home, mom and dad, it says RIP RIP, they're two dead, and then run away with this Lamu. Dr. Bronze exposed as a fraud. Hello. Dr. Eric Bronze, well known for his studies of interspecies genetics, fusion, was recently been exposed for a fraud, and his most recent studies and findings were proven to be falsified. On the 15th of April, Dr. Bronze revealed his findings of human-animal genetic fusion, allowing no way he would be able to, when and where has this taken place? This has revealed his findings of the human-animal fusion genetics, allowing scientists to retrieve specific data and DNA from animals and placing it into the human body, allowing humans to have traits that were exclusive to animals. The discovery sounded too good to be true, which in this case, unfortunately, was the case. Upon further evaluations, Dr. Braun's findings and studies were further evaluated by other scientists, blank them to return with the same blank. The findings were falsified. Dr. Braun's studies were, with all his findings, have experimental results. His studies were purely out of practical studies. All your fault, I did not want any more. So this guy did some genetic fusion with the child and a Lamu. After a long day and a fun time, Llama heads to bed. He tucked himself into his warm blanket. He thought to himself, what a fun day. Reminiscing about tomorrow's banquet. The end. She's still hungry. Well, we're about to get jump scared. Murder at Braun's residence. At around 2100 hours, loud noises were heard within the Braun's residence. Concerned neighbors immediately dialed their emergency services to inspect the concerning incident. What authorities found in the lovely home was absolutely horrifying. The Braun's family was well established within their friendly neighborhood, well liked by their neighbors, and even having an occasional get-together. Eric Bronze, who was 52 at the time, and Tina Bronze, who was 51, and Redacted were a happy family of 3. Besides Dr. Eric Bronze's exposure of fraudulent scientific findings 6 months ago, the family lived with no grudges against any other people and minded their own business. It has come to the shock that on Saturday night, Dr. Eric and Tina Bronze were found brutally murdered in their home, with Redacted's body missing from the terrifying crime scene. Dr. Eric and Tina Bronze's heads were detached from their bodies, laid across the floor, nowhere near their necks. The living room was a mess, with furniture thrown about, flipped over. The graphic scene immediately triggered authorities to conduct a thorough investigation of the gruesome incident. Families are advised to stay indoors and lock any form of entry into their home. The authorities ensure to the public that everything will be handled properly and swiftly. A search party has been conducted by the authorities to look for the young Redacted, dead or alive. It is still unknown who or what could have committed this horrendous act. Although we are all afraid, it is strongly advised to follow the authorities' orders in order to maintain not only our safety, but our loved ones as well. We can only hope that the culprit would be apprehended soon. Our deepest condolences to the extended family of Dr. Eric and Tina Bronze. This was truly an unfortunate and undeserved incident. If you find Redacted or any resemblance of the young child, please report it to the authorities immediately. And that brings us to the end of Hungry Lamu 1. It's a very, very good game with an amazing duality narrative, where you have the happy-go-lucky view of Lamu and whatever happened to him versus what's genuinely going on. because in the roadkill version of the game, we do see Lamu in real life versus how it sees itself as it's going around and eating people. It's a really interesting game, but from what I can understand without getting too far into, theorizing so early on, is I think what happened was that Dr. Bronze and his assistant found this animal slash human genetic fusion thing, and they believe that doing so could cure incurable diseases. And we also learned that it could cure chronic diseases that were originally incurable, like muscle dysmorphia and even cancer or other things like that. And I truly believe that it wasn't truly fraudulent behavior. I think it was just some Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, like crimes against humanity. You can't do that. But I do believe that Dr. Bronze had the motivation to create this serum, whatever he used to change his son or his subject, whatever it was, into Lamu. Now, I don't think Lamu is a real individual. I don't know who this mystery person was, but it's already quite apparent that it was once human, as it has these picture books that, state that Lamu can no longer read, but these were his favorite books. And so it kind of makes you wonder, okay, if these were his favorite books before whatever happened to him, that means he's a child. And that child probably cannot read anymore because whatever the fuck happened to him kind of deleted all of his abilities to intelligently think. And now he's just filled with hunger and hunger and hunger. But that's about all I can say from the game so far, is that I really enjoyed the duality. I really enjoyed how dark it was, but I don't know how deep the lore truly goes. But as of right now, I can 100% say for certain that on that fateful night, I think they transformed their child, and their child killed the two parents and then fled the scene. And then whoever they apprehended was just a scapegoat, wasn't the real person. But whenever it took place, he somehow ended up in a cave where he was eating berries, and people would camp out there and he would eat them too. Lamu, of course. And he would bring them back to his cave, considering all the skulls. And I think if I'm willing to really throw one out there and really guess, I think this child was a fan of Lamu, a children's book, and once killing his parents or doing something similar, like something super traumatic like that, I think his only coping mechanism was to kind of delete the gory and nasty side of things and pretty much just focus on it being like, oh, it's okay. They're all fruit friends. They're not humans. They're not dead. They're fruits, dude. The dog's not dead. It's a fruit, man. It's a banana. And I'm actually not sure how much time has passed, but let's say a lot of time did pass. And I'm willing to believe that this transformation kind of stunted his intelligent growth of a child who could barely read to a child who can not read anymore. He regressed intelligently. Anyway, let's get into the second game, Hungry Llama 2, because it recently came out with a second title, and I'm 90% sure we're going to get all of our answers very much cleared up in this installment. So let's get into it, shall we? All right, kiddos, it's that time. It's that time. I always do these things. Y'all ate it up. The ketchup and smoothie thing, y'all ate it up. Y'all people was in there like, well, ketchups, they're actually roasted and cooked before they do. I was like, okay, so we got a fucking ketchup connoisseurs in the damn chat. How about this? I got another one, something a little less processy and something a little bit more subjective. Do you pour your cereal in first and then add the milk later, or do you pour your milk in first and add cereal later? I'm not gonna tell y'all what side I'm on. I'm not gonna tell y'all, okay? Alright, I'm gonna tell y'all. I'm on the cereal first. On a normal day, I like putting cereal in first. I like pouring the cereal in the bowl, and when I put the milk, I like to like put my arm into it, you know what I'm saying? Get the milk all over the place. Pause on that. I feel like when you pour the milk in first and then the cereal, you kind of have to like break it up a little bit depending upon what you're eating. You gotta like, you know, flip the whisk. You know what I'm saying? I don't do that on a normal occasion. However, when I was a kid, I used to sneak some snacks sometimes, okay? And it was midnight, and my mom told me to go to sleep 2 hours ago, and she finally fell asleep, and I'm sneaking downstairs. The bowl and the cereal hitting the metallic shit is too fucking loud, okay? And so yes, sometimes I would put in the milk first just because it will hit the milk instead of the bowl, and it will be significantly less loud. So I understand, but I think the most optimal way to actually do this thing is to put the cereal in first. Anyway, that's gonna comment down below. Which side are you on? Milk first? Cereal first? I'm just saying, while you're down there, do the Holy Trinity for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, comment, subscribe. Hold out on the subscribing bit because I know we're only halfway through the video at this point. So maybe you're gonna, you know, maybe I'll earn your subscription. So I'll see ya. Let's get back into the video. We start the game off in Lamu Park. Once again, the narrator says how we're still hungry and that there's actually one more fruit friend for us to eat. Lamu runs around trying to catch the protagonist but ends up losing him, wandering into the road and eventually getting hit. We are shown that when we got jump scared from Lamu in the first game, we actually hit Lamu when we were trying to escape. A mystery man wearing a cap would just show up and take Lamu's body away. The only clue that he would leave behind was a pig farm logo of the local farm. We are then shown a flashback of the friends. The four of them seem to be quite close, and the protagonist would get up to take his whiz. And remember when Leon came to class smelling like a pig? Oh yeah, that lecture room stank for days, man. Hey, wasn't my fault I had to do, you know, last minute chores. Got pigs and shit. They wouldn't have been last minute if you didn't procrastinate on them, bro. Bet you were boxing with your brother. As an older brother, I gotta mentor that fella to be ready to throw hands, you feel me? Speaking of which, how's your sister, Tasha? Oh well, she and Zoe are living alone now. Damn, must be tough for the girl. She's like, what, 4? She's 6. Next thing you know, she'll start climbing trees like you, man. Hey, wait, where's Mochi at? She's just wandering around. She'll come back soon. After she's done doing her business. You know how she is. Oh, need to do mine. I'll be right back, y'all. But here we learn the dude has been going through a strong case of survivor's guilt. All of his friends looking at him in the way they died. One on fire, the other with a broken leg, and the last one stung by bees. They all haunt our dreams, saying how it was our fault that we had left them to die and that we left them. And then we are suddenly jolted awake. When being startled awake, we would notice the protagonist's room is quite messy. There are papers on the ground and there's trash bags that have not been taken out. It's clear that he has not been able to move past this incident. And he even says so himself. Our protagonist believes that this monster is still out there. Lamu is still out there. Anyway, exiting out of the door, you come to this long hallway and we actually do see some papers from the first game along with some new ones that already gives us a lot more lore than what we were privy to before. Now they're really getting us this one. Okay, cool. It says local genetic scientist discovers cures from DNA from an animal. It says Eric Bronze, 52, and his mentor Dr. Terry, whatever his name is, 23 I think, have come out to the public to share their findings after months of intensive research and genetic studies. After months of experimenting and studying genetics, the scientists have achieved a miracle breakthrough On the morning of April 15th, the two scientists shared their findings on a cure for incurable diseases by splicing animal genetics with human genetics. These findings were shared with the science committee and later on to the public. The theory behind the research is to use traits exclusive to that of animals, such as an axolotl's ability to regrow limbs or a camel's ability to retain water to hydrate themselves, and placing them into human DNA. Okay. With the option to pick out any animal trait, it is possible that certain human diseases can be cured or circumvented. I think that's how you say that. An example that Dr. Bronze gave during his sharing was on muscle dysmorphia. By using an elephant or llama's DNA, known for their strength and endurance, they can pick those traits and place them onto a human suffering from such a disease to assist them with their daily life. Alright, so the fact that they used the same animal in which Lamu is based after makes me believe that maybe the father wasn't doing this out of malicious intent, but was only trying to save his son from muscle dysmorphia, something that could be a long-term chronic illness that could potentially take the child's life. And so now the fact that we're seeing that llama DNA could help against that could possibly be the reason as to why he did that in the first place. And the possibilities with this research are endless, said Dr. Orgulio, now being called the next Isaac Newton, with how he has achieved a breakthrough at such a young age. I don't even know how to say his name, graduated college when he was only 16. Hello? Amazing everyone with his brilliant intellect. The public is rightfully cheering on the young prodigy, and he's getting what he deserves. We don't know the name of the child still. Oh, this one's the good one here. Ex-scientist arrested for shoplifting. It says, okay, Terry Orgulio, I don't even know how to say his name, 33. So this happens almost a decade after all that. Was arrested on August 29th for shoplifting a convenience store. On a late Saturday night, Orgulio entered a local convenience store and pocketed one bottle of soda and one bag of chips. After attempting to leave without paying, he was caught by the cashier and was later arrested by the authorities. Orgulio was in custody for 3 hours before being released with a warning. Terry Orgulio, formerly Dr. Orgulio, was a genetic scientist within the science committee before he was suspended due to his involvement with the fraudulent findings with the late Dr. Eric Bronze 10 years ago. I see. Orgulio was expected to discover groundbreaking breakthroughs due to his achievements at an early age. However, his potential was wiped after his suspension. Many are disappointed in how the young prodigy has wasted his years due to bad behavior. The public are in unison when they say that this is what he truly deserves. That's so funny how they could do that. Now they could just be like, he's getting everything he deserves, and then the same thing happens, but now everything's kind of flipped. Now he's getting what he deserves. But the fact that Lamu's out here pouncing around kind of makes me believe that it wasn't fraudulent. I think they realized the dangers that it could create, and they tried to kind of self-sabotage. We then wake up as Lamu. He seems to be in a cage, but the narrator tells us that we've been all patched up by a mystery person. Of course, Lamu is always hungry, and so he bangs on the cage trying to get out, when suddenly he is zapped. One of the fruit friends come out, and they are basically behind the zapping. He asks if Lamu is able to help him with something. Of course, Lamu is just hungry and thinks if he helps this fruit friend, maybe he will be able to eat him. But I want to stop it here, guys, and let's take a look at what the fruit friend is wearing. A cap. Something we've seen Terry wear as well. So already it's quite plausible that this washed up scientist Terry is still trying to complete what Dr. Bronze is trying to, complete when he was alive. However, before we can get that answer, we switch to another perspective. This seems to be some form of a flashback inside of the mind of Lamu. Lamu has now become this very fragile, stitched together plushie toy thing, and we are able to bring an item to our stand-in mother and father. For the mom, we can bring her a rose, and for the dad, he gets a syringe. Because remember, he loved his mom quite a bit, but hated his father calling him a monster, so this makes sense. And when doing so, we are shown the mom's kind of parenting and showing us the relationship that he had with his mother. She would tell him to do his nightly routine, which is brush his teeth, drink some milk, and grab a book for bed. Now personally, I think you should drink milk before you brush your teeth, but you know, whatever. Now some things that we should take note of is after each task you do, we get a little PNG image of Lamu doing whatever he was doing. And despite us looking like a llama in the first game and in our own head, it's very important to decipher that we're actually a human child, judging by our feet, judging by our hands and our teeth. But right before bed, Lamu would basically say how much he wanted to go outside and play like the other kids. But of course, unfortunately, he is not physically capable of doing so because of his muscle dysmorphia. But the mother reinforces hope by saying that the dad is doing everything he can to make him better and stronger. But as you know, how these things usually go is the mother was just putting on a tough front.
He's not getting any better. You said that this was the last batch, Eric. Don't worry. My assistant and I are tweaking the formula. The next dose should be the one. Should be? You're treating our son like a fucking lab rat. I am curing our son, Tina. If I didn't get suspended, my assistant and I probably would have had the solution by now. You have to trust me. This genetic research will cure him. It will make him better, I'm telling you. I just want him to have a normal life. The boy deserves the world, man. I know, Tina, I know. He will make us very proud.
It's clear that the father has lost himself in the research and hasn't been around much to be a good father. But he claims that this should be the last batch and that this should be the strongest of the medicine, which would basically cure their son. Switching back to the perspective of the protagonist, he would make his way to the local pig farm. Again, he is still searching for Lamu's body, and the only person he can relate that to is the mystery driver that took Lamu's body away. Of course, I get jump scared so fucking hard.
That was mad disrespectful. Mad disrespectful. I don't appreciate it.
Of course, while looking inside, we do find some notes and some clues. And it's also been brought up that Leon, one of the friends that were murdered at Lamu Park, well, their family owned this place. So soon after Leon's death, it was kind of just closed down and abandoned. They couldn't handle their son's death. While looking around, you could find these 2 log reports, I guess. One of the first being that it was basically Terry explaining just how he's doing his research or whatever, and that's why he was working at the pig farm. And then the next one is actually Terry again talking about why he's actually working at this farm. Remember, him and Dr. Bronze were using animals and humans to, fuse cells. Unfortunately, Dr. Bronze died. And now with the research solely on Terry's back, Terry would very much continue to try to get this breakthrough by working at the local pig farm and taking scraps of the pieces for the animals to use as DNA testings. And whatever he set out to do, he was very, very close to doing so. And while exploring the house, of course, we would undergo another PTSD moment. Leon, who was the one who was burnt to a crisp, is shown in a room, agonizing in pain. We are then shared some more information on why they even went to the park in the first place. As it turns out, the protagonist had the idea to go in the park, thinking the myths were fake. So of course, this is the reason as to why the protagonist has such a heavy sense of survivor's guilt. It was his idea. Leon would then begin to chase us, but getting away from him, reaching into the door, we go back into reality. It turns out today is Leon's birthday, or it would have been if he was still alive. And so the person that snapped us out of that episode was no one other than Leon's little brother, Aaron. He would basically say how Leon and him hated working here, but he still feels the most connected to Leon because they spent so much time in this place. But lucky enough, we do ask Aaron some questions about the mystery driver, and Aaron actually knows who we're talking about and says that about a month ago he was taking joy rides and just not being a good employee, and so their father pretty much fired him. But he's heard that he's gotten a job at the local aquarium, but the unfortunate part is the aquarium has also closed down, so he really has no idea. And of course, once leaving the pig farm, we change perspectives once again. This time it's Lamu's birthday. The mother is extremely disappointed because the father is coming home much later than he promised, and now Lamu is waiting to blow out his candles because he wants his father to be there. And so the mother tells him to go collect some candles and pretty much just gives him busy chores to do while waiting. Of course, finally the father would get home and they'd have a happy-go-lucky birthday dinner. And when present time comes around, the mom would show Lamu's collar. They're getting a dog, or at least I think they're getting a dog. It's either a dog or a llama, I'm not really sure. Anyway, they got a collar. But of course, the dad had forgotten to buy the present in the first place. And you see, Lamu doesn't really care, but the mom does. The mom thinks he's way too infatuated with his work at this point, and he's just forgetting what he's even doing this for. And the father, quite tragically, really believes that his breakthrough will cure his son. Then he asked Lamu if he wanted to go outside, if he wanted to be strong, to play with the other kids like he's always wanted to. He would tell Lamu this is the very last medicine for him, and to be brave just one more time. And to the mother's dismay, the father would bring out a syringe and once again inject the medicine into Lamu. And it would work this time, just not in the way that he planned. We do change perspectives again, and we are now the protagonists. When entering into the aquarium, it has been abandoned, as I stated, completely dark. But we do learn through some more frantic writings that basically Terry was working as a snack barman just to get money, and he also had a huge boner for hating people. While exploring the hallways even more, we'd run across Tasha. Tasha was the one with the broken leg who was cut down from the tree. And she would ask us why did we run away, and when the protagonist would turn and go get some help, she would exclaim that you aren't leaving us again. And then we learn again that it was our plan to get all of our friends there to Lamu Park in the first place. It was our fault. But swiftly getting away from her, we'd run into Ken instead. Ken was the one who was stung to death by the bees. And again, they basically echo that it's our fault that they had all died. But this time we reply that we promise we're going to make things right. While looking around even more, we would actually find some rental papers with an address on there, and basically Terry seems to be renting out a basement, and of course later we would find his ID, and now that has his address on there. And then again, our perspective switches to that of the past.
Oh dear, look at what you've done. But you were just very hungry, weren't you? I'm sure they would have let you if they knew how hungry you were. Besides, llamas only eat fruits. And you were very, very hungry.
Somehow Lamu comes back from their hibernation, and it seems that Terry somehow left the gate door open. Around the room you can find many notes and lore drops, but Lamu can't read, so we'll circle back to this later on. Lamu would leave and then hear someone actually on their way back, so instead they would hide behind some boxes, finally getting the jump on its captor. However, plot twist, the protagonist makes it into the building and picks up an axe to finish the job. And when going into the room, we'd actually be able to read up on a lot of stuff that Lamu couldn't. We would see a diagram stating that the asset is experiencing severe trauma and it requires a brain scan to further understand. Next, the enlarged stomach, possibly mutated due to the increased metabolism requiring more energy to function. Digestion process has increased, causing asset to constantly be looking for food, which explains why he's so damn hungry. The next thing, despite his enlarged stomach, his liver remains somewhat to the similar size that he once had, so maybe another organ could be filtering blood. And finally, which I think is the most damning and most sad detail, is that his quote-unquote hooves are actually bloated fingers webbed together. Why is that? We would find another diagram, but this time actually of the brain scans. It would state signs of severe trauma, possibly due to the mutation at a young age. Could older subjects handle it better? And then the brain is severely underdeveloped. Could conditioning alter assets' thinking? And then we would find the man of the hour, Terry, walking in.
Who the hell are you? It's you. You were there. At the forest when I crashed my car into that thing.
So you were the inept driver.
Where is it?
Where is what?
That thing, that monster. I know you abducted it and you brought it here.
Damn floodlights.
And so what if it's here? The asset is contributing greatly to my research. It's mine now. I'm going to kill it. For my friends. That thing killed my friends.
Your friends are trivial to the breakthrough I'll be making. Here's some advice. Let the dead stay dead and get the hell out of my lab.
No. Tell me where the fuck it is now.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Do you know who I am? The prodigy of science. The one who will bring a miracle to humanity. Dr. Bronze entrusted this great research, no, this great purpose upon me, and me alone. You are insignificant to me. None of you matter. Not you, and especially not your dead friends. They all got what they deserved.
And in the midst of this intense conversation, the scientist Terry got what he deserved. Terry's head had been eaten, and of course, Lamu is still very much hungry even after that. And so he would even try to eat the protagonist himself, but then he would get zapped and make a run for it. He would run into the cage, and now there's this secret hallway area where Lamu runs by all the fruit friends. He has consumed all the dead bodies. And the narrator would just continue to keep telling him to run and just to keep going. But a mystery voice would tell him no, and that he's tired. And it turns out to be a child. His name is Larry.
I'm tired, Lamu. Oh? I don't want to run anymore, Lamu. Don't listen, Lamu. Keep on running. No! I'm tired. I don't want to run anymore. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Did not want hurt. Want do good. Want mommy. Want normal. All get pain. Still hungry.
And as it turns out, all of this was simply in the mind of Larry, because we do in fact see that he was killed
by the protagonist. What makes Hungry Lamu so terrifying isn't just the sudden tone switch, it's the emotional whiplash. That childlike innocence is now weaponized. It sets you up to laugh, to maybe even goof around, then yanks the floor right from under you. The horror works because it feels personal. There are moments of confusion, of silence, of realizing you're the one piecing together what really happened. There are no long exposition dumps or over-the-top explanations. Instead, the lore is told through implications, cryptic texts, blood-smeared scenes, and the way the environment itself reacts to you. Who is Lamu? Why is this happening? What does it say about the people behind it? The answers aren't handed to you. There's something you feel. Both games also play with the idea of duality, how the same thing can be seen in two completely different ways. Lamu is both adorable and horrifying. The world is both colorful and suffocating. Even the player's roles changes, blurring the line between control and complacency. It's a game that doesn't just scare you with visual, it unnerves you with the meaning behind it. It is also worth noting that the community theories that have sprung up around Hungry Lamu, many players believe there's a deeper psychological theme at play here: grief, mental illness, or even a trauma manifesting in innocent disguises. Some may even connect Lamu's actions to a childhood coping mechanism gone horribly wrong. Terry and Dr. Bronze are both obsessed and show the consequences of such actions in their own ways. Dr. Bronze was obsessed with curing his son, making his actions believe that his son was imperfect in his current state, causing a great psychological pain on Larry when he didn't even realize it, and is why he begun to hate his father and look at him as a fucking monster, even though that we know that the father was nothing but trying to save his son, while Terry was obsessed with his breakthrough and getting what he deserves. And in a way, he did. And the main character, who by the way has remained unnamed, battles with his PTSD and survivor's guilt just as Larry himself has. Larry killed his mom and dad, and without knowing how to ingest that truth, clings to his favorite childhood book, Lamu, the llama, saying how he killed no one and all he does is simply eat fruits all along. While the main character felt as if his friends were killed because of him and couldn't deal with survivor's guilt, but chose to face reality and kill the thing that was ironically also a victim in this entire scope of things. In the end, Hungry Lamu and its sequel proves that you don't need a AAA budget to tell a terrifying story. All you need is contrast, a colorful coat of paint hiding something rotten underneath. With a simple concept, a brilliant execution, and just enough mystery to keep you thinking long after you close the game, you get a fantastic experience. And this was also one of my favorite parts of the video. As y'all know, I love to talk about the lore and I love to talk about the timeline. So let's get into that one, shall we? Yes, I am aware that at the very end of Hungry Llama 2, Kalu actually put a timeline section explaining everything, but I still want to go over it because it's still just like small things that he didn't really add because he just didn't have enough space, but I have enough space. So let's get started. April of 1977, Dr. Bronze and his younger assistant Terry released to the public that their findings of animal and human genetic fusion and how this could really cure a lot of incurable diseases. June of 1977, Dr. Bronze was outed as a fraud due to his research not being perfected, and so he would focus quite heavily on his research with Dr. Terry and using his own son as the main subject. Larry, his son, had severe muscle dysmorphia and was unable to do basic things, and with this on Dr. Bronze's mind and the public eyes pressuring him, he felt he needed to work as hard as possible on his research, causing a rift between his family and himself. It wasn't until October of 1977, on Larry's birthday, his father would give him one last dosage of medicine, which would completely change Larry into a mindless beast who killed his parents and ate them.
Larry would take on the alter ego of Lamu out of lack of understanding of traumatic situations, believing himself to have only been eating fruits, not people. Also, during this time, he would begin to hate his father for what he has done. Over the course of 10 years, he was at first a blob of flesh and confused genetics, but then he slowly became a llama-like beast with human teeth. His stomach would grow larger, making him always hungry. His brain would shrink due to the intense amount of stress, losing the ability to speak and to read, and worse yet, his fingers would morph into one stub and it would callus up, making it a makeshift hose. And then sometime in 1987, Dr. Terry has now been a washed up scientist. He's shoplifting and is working in low income jobs, but secretly he's still planning on how to continue his research that Dr. Bronze had left. And so in February of 2002, Lamu would kill 22 campers over the course of 25 years, becoming an infamous myth. Of course, the main character would ignore the stories, and his friends and Mochi would die because of it. This is also the night where the main character would crash into Lamu, allowing Terry to abduct him and continue his experiments. Terry would be working at Dean's farm, which was owned by the Dean's family at the time. He'd secretly been taking scraps of animals and using them to aid his research. And then of May 2002, Terry would be fired due to taking joyrides in the company truck, more than likely dealing with Lamu. And he would find a job at the local aquarium and would work on making money to buy a basement to store Lamu for his research. And the rest is history. The MC would track down Lamu and Terry and put it into this tragic tale. And that is the end of Hungry Lamu 1 and 2. Now, this game was awesome. I really didn't know anything about it until the second one came out, and all of the horror enthusiasts out there began making videos on it. And I was like, what is this game? So I kind of ran into it completely blind. And I think that was probably the best thing I could have done, just because of how good of a narrative it is. It is truly a narrative that is some of my favorite. Cutesy but dark, and that has a very, very good theme at the very end of it. You could see over and over again that survivor's guilt and obsession go hand in hand. Larry and the main character are both dealing with survivor's guilt, and their obsession over certain things reign true to everything. For example, the main character's obsession is killing Lamu, and Larry's obsession is solving his hunger issues. Two different things, one being a literal physical thing that he cannot control, and the other being a psychological thing that the main character could not control. And then this obsession continues forth with Dr. Bronze and his obsession on his work in curing his incurable child's disease. And then we have Terry, who was also obsessed at becoming this prodigy and proving everybody wrong for this breakthrough that he was about to commit. And it's just obsession, survivor's guilt, obsession, survivor's guilt. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed just the duality of the whole situation was amazing. Where you see the mind of Lamu, or Larry at that, and everything just seems so perfect and jolly and cutesy, but it's so perfect to the point where it's dystopian. And so when things go wrong and things go bad, it's almost like the early 2000 Flash games that you would come across that are super gory, like How to Whack Your Boss, or like something gory like that. And it's a really good story. I think the biggest and most tragic thing about this story was the fact that the father looked to his own son as a lab rat, something that he could cure, which I could only understand would probably feel terrible, that your own father is working so hard to change you. Yes, it's caped in this obvious thing of, I'm going to make you feel better, you're going to be able to do things that you always wanted to do. And the same backhanded tactic, essentially, He's basically saying you are not perfect as you are now. You are not my son until I cure you. Like, that is basically what he was doing. And it's so sad. But I do believe that it does share a decent theme of body dysmorphia, and that you really should just be more accepting of someone's inability and not feel like you would like to change them. And IRL, in real life, there's many situations such as that where it doesn't have to be the same thing of body dysmorphia, but simply body shaming. When you're dating someone and they get a little too skinny or a little too fat for your liking, and you feel as if you need to change them, you feel as if, or the partner feels the need to change themselves because maybe you're not showing them the gratification that they want. Maybe you're not as pleased with their appearance as you once were, and they are seeing that and they feel as if they need to change themselves to better appease you. And that's not even just that. There's other things. There's a bunch of, short king academics where that whole thing was only a thing because in the dating scale, women would be like, if you are 5'8" and under, I'm not talking to you. And for young and impressionist individuals who are hitting that scale of like, damn, I'm short. I'm looking at my family and they're all 5'10". I'm not going to be able to be as tall as what I need to be. Not 5'10", I meant to say 4'10", but I digress, right? Just short. Me, basically. And you would grow up and you would just have to go through extra steps to understand yourself and be totally okay with you. Obviously, growing up, you will find those people, but honestly, it's a perfect thing when you do find people like that, because it kind of just shows you who they are as people, So if you're having a tough time in the dating scheme, if you're having a tough time with your own personal understanding of your body, if you're having a tough time with a disease that has changed your body fundamentally, just know that you are still perfect. Despite the changes aren't bad. Change is good. It just all depends on how you change and how it affects you. If you know yourself that you're eating too much and you are having a heap of physical problems, then yeah, maybe you should work on working out. If you aren't eating enough and you're losing weight constantly and the staple is to be skinny, fuck that. Be healthy. My girlfriend is so fucking small, but she was smaller when I first met her. She was extremely small. Then I loved her, and even now I love her, and nothing has changed. Yeah, she's gotten thicker, but like, if you are okay with your body, then I'm okay with your body. And if you are hanging out with anyone who is looking at you questionably, if your mom makes a passing comment and being like, damn, you're eating a lot these days, live your life. If my life is not in danger, I should be able to do what I want. Okay? And hang around people that will only encourage that type of behavior from you, to truly be okay with how you feel about yourself. If you think you're too big, get in the fucking gym. If you think you're too small, eat more. Try to change your diet. And if you're just right, continue to do what you're doing best. Just be you. And so I will end off the video with that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all on the next one. Thank you for watching. And do the Holy Trinity for me. Like, comment, subscribe. And if you made it to this part of the video, you obviously liked what you saw here. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out. Bye-bye. And I'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.